than anyone else. Bannon turns around and says they love Trump because he speaks to them. He was being interviewed by a Chicago newsman. He said, why are you fighting in Spain? He said, if I'm not fighting the fascists here, I'll be fighting them in St. Louis.
Wow.
You need to do better. You need to do better.
He didn't know.
Now let's listen to this fantastic LBC caller. Gary's take on why America hates us. Now, after the aftermath, so to speak, of those leaked messages, and we found out what our JD Vance really thought about Europe, James asked his audience, why do they hate us so much? And to be honest, he got some brilliant callers, but Gary just stood out for me. So I want to know, Gary the best LBC caller ever?
Well, I think you answer the question sometimes is why do they hate us? And it's an how and a why.
Yeah.
Why do they hate us? You say almost every week, every programme, there's the big guy, the small guy one side, and the other little brown chap in a dinghy the other side.
Yeah.
He's taking your biscuits. The why. Okay? The why. I was listening to Bannon, of all people, Steve Bannon.
Bannon.
And Bannon. Yeah. He went back to McNamara, and it's a great one, this one. McNamara's 100,000, demobilising the morons, which was they wanted to get people into the Vietnam War because the educated people didn't want to go, the students could get out of it, the college people could get out of it.
Some people got bone spurs, didn't they?
And some people got bone spurs, and McNamara come up with the McNamara's 100,000s, the McNamara's morons, mobilising the morons, lower the standards to get into the army, lower the qualifications to get into the army, and that got far more working class people, the rednecks in, etc., who had 3 times the casualty rate than anyone else. Bannon turns around and says they love Trump because he speaks to them, because he is the language of a third grade student. He's mobilising the morons. They turn around, people from Arkansas, wherever, and they turn around and go, I understand that, man. He's talking to me, because they've got the education level of a third grade student.
Yeah, well, that works up to a point that people are coming and sitting at Paul's dinner table in New York City who are clearly not part of this. I've got family members, not family members, but close to family members, like godparents and things, in the United States who are Donald Trump fans. And you know, they were successful business people in Edinburgh. They are not third-grade students or McNamara's morons. They're buying it as well.
Now, that comes on to the other point, is why Europe? Why do they look at Europe as well? It's the easy target. Now,
it's the only
we're coming up for the anniversary.
It's the only target.
It's the only. We're coming up to the anniversary of VE Day, etc. And the Yanks are going to bang out. We've been helping Europe. Great War, very confusing, by the way, not that simple. Second World War, we came as well. You go to Omaha Cemetery, look along the rows of those graves. Where did those guys come from?
Yeah.
Their parents come from Denmark, Sweden, France, Russia, Germany, Holland, all over Europe.
Yeah.
You can say a percentage of their parents. Their grandparents almost certainly did. They looked, as Eisenhower said, a crusade in Europe, crusade in Europe to democracy, etc. They were looking almost at Europe as the old country. Yeah. You're 4 generations on now. To those people, Europe might as well be another planet.
Wow.
It's an easy target.
And that's why we talked of the special relationship, and it's why we should stop now.
Anymore.
We're protecting our own by joining I mean, there was plenty of resistance, as you will know more about this than I do. There was plenty of resistance to the idea of joining both both world wars in the United States. Charles Lindbergh, I think, was one of the great focuses of fascistic
Legion of George Washington.
That's the fella. But
and the other point is as well, the only black guy ever to lead, or the first black guy to lead a unit of non-segregated military was in Spain in 1936, killed at the Battle of Barunte. He was being interviewed by a Chicago newsman. He said, why are you fighting in Spain? He said, if I'm not fighting the fascists here, I'll be fighting them in St. Louis.
Wow.
That's why you're fighting in the Ukraine. The other thing is, you saying about the thing today with the what they've had on with this Snapchat thing, whatever it was. One interview, the guy turns around today and said, don't worry, we've got Elon looking at it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the satire alarm broke years ago, didn't it? But yeah, don't worry, we've got Elon Musk looking into what happened. You're absolutely right. I forgot to play you that clip. Oh, that's all right then. Everyone relax. Elon, because that's a bit like when Jeremy Corbyn suggested didn't he suggest sending the poisons after the Salisbury attacks to Russia, to Russian labs to check out whether or not they were dodgy or something?
Yeah.
It's up there, isn't it? Gary, are you well? Are you well?
Very well, sir. Nice and sunny. Off back to Normandy. The French are taking it quite good over here, to be perfectly honest.
How do you mean?
Everyone's looking at let's dump the F-35 and buy the Rafale 4. So they're all looking.
Well, these are the devil will be in the detail, and of course it leaves the UK in a particularly tricky spot at the moment, because this 150 billion euro fund to be spent on military hardware and software and whatever is in between hard and software at the moment would not be available to us because we are not members of the European Union. But I suspect that will change. A lot of love for Gary coming in. Is a regular caller, far too busy doing the work of the angels to phone us as regularly as he otherwise might. But he always goes with our love and best wishes. I mean, a little quick clip as well, because he's reminded me. This is John Ratcliffe, the director of the CIA, the bloke responsible for bringing the undercover operative's identity into the group chat that had also involved an accidentally invited journalist, while the Secretary of State of Defence was reassuring everybody that it had been cleared by OPSEC. So the Democratic Senator Michael Bennet picked up on another element of the story that you might have missed, just as I forgot to tell you that the man they've charged with looking into whether anything went wrong at the very top of the United States administration is Elon Musk, arguably the man at the very top of the United States administration. My old mate Harry's been in touch to tell me that in between software and hardware you have wetware, apparently. I presume that's accurate and not a puerile attempt to get me to say something that I didn't realise was rude on the radio. But there it is. So here's that clip. I mean, just pay attention. I'm not going to tell you what's in it, because I want you to be as surprised as I was.
Did you know that the president's Middle East advisor was in Moscow on this thread while you were, as director of the CIA, participating in this thread? Were you aware of that? Are you aware of that today?
I'm not aware of that today.
This sloppiness, this incompetence, this disrespect for our intelligence agencies and the personnel who work for them is entirely unacceptable. It's an embarrassment.
Senator,
you need to do better. You need to do better.
He didn't know. And Computer Weekly, which of course led the field on coverage of the post office scandal, Computer Weekly reported last month on Russia's successful attempts to hack Telegram exchanges. I'm no technologist, but hey, if one of them's in Moscow, it's probably a little bit easier to keep an eye on things than it would be if one of them wasn't. And if the director of the CIA doesn't know that one of the people on the call to which they've accidentally invited a journalist while sharing illegally incredibly detailed classified information up to and including the identity of an undercover operative, if the director of the CIA doesn't know, who does? This is the moment where you realise why Donald Trump has surrounded himself with idiots. It is his best chance of survival. He's surrounded himself with idiots and liars, because that is the way in which the biggest liar and the biggest idiot of them all can remain on top.
Now, I watched a bit of that meeting a couple of days ago while tuning into the Bin podcast.
Director Ratcliffe, this was a huge mistake, correct? No.
What? Whoa. Come
Play
on.
that again. Play that again. That, you know what? That deserves to be a clip.
And I was honestly astounded by the sheer incompetence of those utter clowns. It was painfully clear that they were either completely unfit for the roles they were given, or they were just flat out lying to the committee, weren't they? By the way, if you haven't subscribed to the Bin podcast, where Bin stands for Be Informed, I highly recommend you do. Mike and Tim, absolutely brilliant. And they forgot more about American politics than I'll ever know. And you'll find the link in the description box below, so subscribe, be informed, and check out their fantastic content and live streams, my friends. You will not be disappointed. Now, the Rupert Murdoch analogy is still very strong here, isn't it? Also, that McNamara morons part, I found that really fascinating because I'd never heard that term before, let alone Project 100,000. But when you tie it together with what Steve Bannon apparently says, and judging by how clued up Gary was, I don't doubt what he says to be true. But if Steve Bannon said that Trump is immobilising the McNamara's morons, it does kind of make a lot of sense, doesn't it? When James said about having close to family members in America who created and ran businesses who were Trump supporters, I have a theory on that, and it's just my theory. I'm not saying right and I'm not saying I'm wrong. So if you think I'm wrong, just let me know down below. But for me, there are two types of Trump supporters. There are those who are rich and want tax cuts, and there are those who just want to be entertained because politics is meant to be boring, and they don't want boring, they want to be entertained. And if you're not too sure which one you are, just check your bank balance. And if you haven't got enough to buy a pot to pee in, you're just one of those who just wants to be entertained. I also found what he had to say about Europe being the easy target very strong, as well as what he said about Omaha Cemetery too. Absolutely fantastic. But what do you guys think? Best caller ever? Let me know down below. And if you enjoy everything, House of Commons, Select Committee meetings, and just anything political, please give us a like and subscribe, and I shall just bid you farewell and take care, my friends.